I'm going to share with you the 15 brutal truths I wish I'd known during my 14 years of racing motocross. So I did some stuff that was backwards. There was plenty of stuff that I wasted time with that stopped me from getting the results I was capable of on race day. And it made me work twice as hard as I needed to, sometimes for no extra speed, no better results. So hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and be able to kick ass on race day. Number one, don't try and copy the pros. So I used to spend a lot of time going on forums back when I was racing. So this was before Facebook groups, before social media was that big. There used to be forums where people could jump on there and chat, which was similar to a Facebook group. An open community where people can start up an account and put different advice or put their opinions and leave comments on there. So I think from memory it was like, and there was another one which was at the time, which talked a lot about fitness and training for riding and racing. And so I used to follow or try and follow a lot of the advice on there. But the problem is you had a lot of people commenting on there and giving their 2 cents worth that really weren't qualified, educated to be able to give that type of advice. So you'd get someone saying, oh, don't lift weights because you're going to get arm pump. You'd have someone else saying, oh, yeah, I have pickle juice and that helps me to be able to ride fast. And then you say someone else who says, yeah, I don't eat at all and that helps me. And you've just got all of this conflicting information, which really made me more confused with what I needed to do rather than actually help me. One of the other things that was also on there is a lot of the stuff that was suggested on these types of sites were just different types of workouts and exercises that were like, oh yeah, this should be good, or yeah, this could be good for racing. But there was really no evidence that it actually helped. It was kind of like, yeah, just do this, it should be good for racing. There was no explanation on why or how it helped with the racing. So I never really understood what I was doing or why I was doing it. I was just doing it hoping to get better and never got to that stage where I was race fit, where I was able to put in a full race at race speed. It just left me confused and constantly asking more and more questions and going down different rabbit holes that didn't really help me. So that's why it didn't really help. What I would do differently is I would go and find a specific person, like a strength and conditioning coach, that had some sort of experience working with riders and racers, or at least some experience working with athletes, building their strength and conditioning. Because that way I'd be working with a trusted source, someone who at least had experience working with athletes or working with people in competitive sports, and then I'd be able to trust the information. And when you can trust the information, you're more confident with what you're doing rather than hopping around to different exercises, different programs all the time, hoping that something's going to work. Number two, being lighter on the bike isn't better. So I used to do a fair amount of riding coaching courses, boot camps, clinics, and try and go on the internet. We didn't have too much video back then, but it was more like written stuff, again, like jumping on the forums and seeing what people would suggest. And I'd see a lot of riding coaches that would suggest, and these are good riding coaches, that would suggest trying to get lighter and trying to be light on the bike and not be able to get heavy. And it was more so like the power to weight ratio. You want to be light on the bike and nimble and be able to move around. If you had too much muscle, you wouldn't be able to do that. The reason that piece of advice didn't work and still doesn't work to this day is because the bike that I was riding at the time, so I was riding like a 250F, was about 110 kilos. At that time, I was weighing about 68 kilos. So I had a 110 kilo bike and me at 68 kilos. So if you add those two together, that's 178 kilos that I had to be able to wrestle around, okay, around the track for 15-minute, 20-minute motocross races. For my scenario, being at 70 kilos and being at 6'2", I actually needed to get a little bit heavier. Okay, and the reason I needed to get a little bit heavier is because I needed a little bit more muscle. I needed more strength to wrestle the bike around. Because the stronger I could have got myself, the lighter the bike would have felt. The lighter the bike felt, I would have used a lot less energy on the bike. So I would have been able to ride harder for longer periods of time, especially with a 4-stroke in comparison to, say, riding like 125s and 85s before, which were a fair bit lighter. So what I would have done differently again is I would have gone to a coach that specializes in working with athletes. That was really the problem, is I had a lot of misinformation where I was taking advice from people that weren't really credible in that area. And so with the riding coaches that I was working with, they were great riding coaches. Like when it comes to skills on the bike and technique and doing jumps and doing ruts and all that sort of stuff, amazing, 10 out of 10. But that's their skill set. Their skill set was not getting a rider fit and strong and dialing in the nutrition and doing all that sort of stuff. That was kind of stuff that they gave ad hoc advice out and guidelines and rough ideas of what to do. But there was no clear path of what needed to be done and why it needed to be done and then how it worked with the body. So it kind of just left me trying to get lighter and trying to maybe like not eat as much at periods of time, trying to not lift weights, trying to do lots of cardio to try and stay light, which just wasn't the answer. Number 3, cardio isn't that important. So I used to watch what a lot of the pros did, and at that time, Alden Baker was quite popular, still is a popular coach and trainer. But the main method of training back then was doing a lot of endurance stuff. It was like, you don't want to lift weights, they're going to make you big and bulky. You need endurance for the bike. So a lot of it was cycling. You'd see like a lot of guys cycling or talking about cycling, doing body weight workouts, doing a lot of endurance stuff. And so I tried to replicate that. So I went and did spin classes at the gym 3 or 4 times a week to try and build up my endurance like these pros were doing. Went and did swimming for 5 years. I did club level swimming 3 or 4 times a week for 5 years, where we do an hour in the swimming pool, just smashing out laps. You'd think doing that you'd be pretty fit. And I was pretty fit. I was fit in terms of being a fit swimmer. Like I was relatively good at swimming. But when it came to transferring to the bike, still wasn't able to put in a full 15, 20-minute moto at race speed. And the reason is because I was so focused on the endurance and doing this long distance stuff, it wasn't correlating over to what I was asking of my body on the bike. Because if you look at a motocross race, like if I was to go back now and coach myself, this is what I'd say. I'd be like, if you look at a motocross race is not a 15 or 20-minute race at a consistent speed all the way through. So it's not like going to the swimming pool where I was just going and smashing out laps, doing freestyle for laps and laps and laps, and going up, down, up, down, up, down. When you're out on the track racing motocross, there's parts of the track that require a lot of effort, parts of the track that don't require much effort. So if I take one of the sandy tracks here, Coastal in Western Australia, it's a sandy track and it's rough. But there's some parts of the track that are really rough and really bumpy and take a lot of effort, and they use a lot of energy, okay, really wrestling the bike around. And then there's other parts of the track that are little to no effort, like going around a corner with a big berm where it's sandy and you can sit down and hold the power on. It takes little to no effort to be able to do that. So there's these fluctuations of intensity going from like pushing really hard and your body's exerting itself a lot to resting and recharging. And it's going up, down, up, down, up, down all the way through that 20 minutes. But I was training my body to do the opposite. And so a lot of that was from watching these pro level guys do a lot of cycling. The thing I didn't understand at the time that didn't really click or make sense for me was that those guys are riding on their bikes a lot, like their motorbikes, right? They're riding maybe 4 or 5 times a week on the bike, doing hours and hours and hours, motos and motos and motos, skills and skills and skills all the time. They're building a lot of strength and fitness through being on the bike all the time. And I wasn't on the bike all the time. I was only riding once a week, getting out on the weekends. So I had to find something else off the bike that was really, really good at getting me fitter and stronger to help me on the bike on race day, because I was only riding once a week. For the pros though, the fitness and strength off the bike is not as an important of a component to build racing strength and fitness, because their strength and fitness is built through all of the riding that they're doing. So you could grab a great rider and you could give them cycling and they're still going to be race fit. You could grab a great rider and give them burpees to do and they're still going to be race fit. You could grab a rider and you could give them chocolate cake every day and they're still going to be race fit. It doesn't mean the chocolate cake got them race fit. Doesn't mean the cycling got them race fit. Doesn't mean the burpees got them race fit. It's the fact that they're just doing so many hours on the bike, the strength and fitness is naturally going to be very high when they go and race, because that's what they're teaching their body to do. The problem was I wasn't able to ride that often. So that's why my off the bike stuff had to really, really be dialed in. So if I was to go back now, I would have taken the off the bike stuff way more seriously than what I took it. Okay. For me, it was like, oh, any exercise is good exercise. And that was that. Okay. I was like, oh, swimming, must be doing something. Oh, doing spin classes, must be doing something. So if I was to do it again, I'd go back and find someone that's actually credible, that's good at getting a rider or a human body, fitter and stronger. And I would go and work with that person because they actually know how to be able to do that, rather than what I was doing is just trying to mimic what other people were doing, but not actually paying attention to the full story. I was just picking and choosing what I wanted to see. Number 4, food is as important as fitness. So I used to eat a lot of energy bars. Okay, I used to go and get like protein or energy bars from the supermarket and take them to the track. There was these Dark Dog energy drinks that we had at one stage we got for free for, I don't know how we got them, but they were like pretty much Red Bulls, right? But it was called Dark Dog. Don't even know if they sell them anymore. I'd never heard of them. It's like a caffeine drink. Sports drinks used to have like Staminade, Lucozade, Powerade, stuff like that. Glucose tablets. Pretty much any food was good food. Well, that's the strategy that we worked off. The reason why that didn't work for me is because I didn't understand that my body operates on different types of fuels differently. Okay, so you got proteins, fats, and carbs. I didn't even know what they were. It was just like any food was good food. The other thing that I didn't understand is that you need to time the right foods. Your body takes a certain amount of time to digest foods, and there's certain foods that are better, say, before a race compared to having it during a race. There's better foods to have for breakfast than there is having like 15 minutes before you're about to go and ride. And I didn't know that. And so what would happen is when I'd rock up to race day, some days I'd feel great. I'd get out there and race, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I feel like I've got lots of energy today. Other days I'd rock up to races and I'm like, cool, I feel cooked. Like my body doesn't feel strong. I feel weak. My legs feel like they're blowing up. Maybe I've got arm pump, all sorts of stuff happening and no idea why. And so the reason that that was happening is because I didn't have a clear structure of how to fuel myself. I was just guessing. Some days we'd have Maccas for breakfast. There was the Adelaide Junior Nationals that we went to one year. We were getting pizza from the bakery, okay, at like 5 o'clock in the morning because that's the only place that was open. And I was having that before I was going racing at the Junior Nationals. We just didn't know. Just didn't have the education, didn't have the knowledge, right? I wanted to be better, but I just didn't know how. I didn't have a system there. So what that meant is because I was fueling myself differently all the time, I felt differently on the bike. When you feel different on the bike all the time, you perform at different levels, right? So if I was to do that differently, what I would make sure is that I could have got help from a nutritionist at that point. Maybe I could have either done a bit more research on nutrition. I never even looked at food, to be honest. I looked more, it was always focused on the training and the workouts. But the thing I didn't understand is that the fuel for your body is what allows your body to move and to do what it needs to do. It's like having your bike and having A-kit suspension and getting the motor done at Pro Circuit and then not putting any fuel in the bike. It's not going to matter. And that's the same with my body. It's like I was doing all of this fitness and training stuff and not fueling it properly. So if I was to go back again, I'd probably work with a sports nutritionist or do more research down that rabbit hole so that I just had a clear system of how to fuel myself. How to, what to eat before a race, what to eat after a race, what to eat the night before. On that, if you'd like a free copy of our Motocross nutrition guide, which will map that out for you for a full motocross day, I'll put the link in the description for you. You can grab a copy and give it a crack. Number 5, riding for the sake of riding only gets you so far. So our method for getting better on the bike was just bike time. So we only rode once a week, but when we went on road, it was about, okay, get as much riding done as you can when we get out to the track. Okay, get through as much fuel as you can. If you can get through a tank of fuel for a day, that's like a good day's riding. If you didn't get through a tank of fuel while you're out riding, then that meant you're probably slacking off or spending more time in the pit, under the pit shelter, talking shit rather than actually riding the bike. So the reason that didn't work is, and I wouldn't say it didn't work, it just only got me to a certain point. So I was an A-grade rider for most of my riding and racing years. And that was just riding once per week. A lot of the other guys used to ride longer, but I just used to ride once per week. Other guys used to ride frequently and do midweek rides. We didn't do that. So it got me up to a stage where I was an A-grade rider, but it kind of kept me around that same area, like that top 5, top 10, like depending on the year, around that area of riding and racing results. And then I kind of just hovered there for a long time. And so what I would do differently if I was to go back is I needed to focus more on the skills and technique side when I went and rode. Because when I went and rode, I just relied on just riding and riding and riding. But there was holes in my riding that needed more work than other areas. Like ruts, for example. Wasn't very good at ruts. Used to go over for the Junior Nationals a lot where there was a lot of ruts over race and really struggled with them. But I never practiced them. Of course I'm not going to get better if I don't practice them. So I could have gone and done figure eights or gone and build a rut track or done stuff like that to get better at them. It's just stuff I didn't do. Used to go to the track and just ride. Used to go to the tracks that you liked riding at that were fun, and that's what it was based around. Okay, it was based around just bike time and getting on the bike. Number 6, there's more to being hydrated on the bike than just drinking water. So I used to smash through a lot of water and always feel dehydrated. I didn't really know what dehydration was, to be honest. I just knew that I always felt shit, especially when it was really hot, really struggled. And so I would drink a lot of water though. Okay, we had a Waco fridge in the back of the car, and that had plenty of water in it. We used to drink shit tons of water over the day, but still used to feel that depleted, dehydrated feeling. And so I thought, I just need to drink more water, or maybe my body just doesn't cope with the heat. Maybe that's just me. The reason it didn't work is I didn't understand hydration. So when you're sweating a lot, you lose electrolytes. Okay, you lose salts and electrolytes, and they help you to be able to retain the water. And so do carbohydrates. Carbohydrates also help you to retain water and keep you hydrated. So what was happening is because my nutrition was out of whack, I didn't have carbohydrates in my body. They were depleted. So that was one area where I couldn't hold water. Because I was sweating a lot because it was hot, and obviously you've got all your gear on, you're sweating out all of these electrolytes and sodium, salt. I wasn't replacing it though. I didn't know it needed to be replaced. I was just like, I feel thirsty and I need to get all this water in. So if I was to go back, what I would do differently is just have a better strategy there for my hydration. It's learning a little bit more about electrolytes, learning a little bit more about carb loading so that I could keep myself hydrated and having a better strategy throughout the day. And it's not something that I needed to go full nerd on. And like, obviously we've worked with like 500 plus races at this point over the last 10 years. I don't need to go like full in depth and know absolutely everything. I just needed to know like the bare minimum. Think about like driving your car, right? It's like you don't need to know about how to do an oil change or, you know, how the technology works on the back end or how to pull the motor apart and rebuild it. You just need to know enough to be able to drive the car to get from A to B. That's what you need to know to get the results from it. That's what I would have done or should have done when it came to hydration. Number 7, prioritize strength building. So I was always told from riding coaches, other riders, from my dad as well, okay, it was just a general thing in motorsport or in racing, in motocross, that muscle will make you too heavy for the bike and it'll give you arm pump, okay? So you don't want to be big and bulky, you don't want to lift heavy weights, you want to try and be lean and try and be nimble on the bike. So I even remember I first started doing CrossFit, I think it was 2010 when I did get into CrossFit, and that was my first introduction to weight training. And I remember being there and they were lifting all these heavy weights, and I'd gone in there with another motocross rider that had done it at the point. This is like 2010, 2011, so a while ago. And I remember going in there and I was shit scared to lift these heavy weights. I was honestly scared. I was trying to cut the reps back. I was trying to not lift as heavy. I was trying to like miss parts of the workout because I didn't want to get big and bulky and get arm pump. I was like shit scared of lifting all these weights. I was like, I'm doing the wrong stuff. And so the reason that thinking was wrong at the time is because, again, the 250F I was riding is about 110 kilos. I was 68 kilos at the time. That bike was way too heavy for me. I didn't have the strength I needed to wrestle it around. I didn't understand that the stronger I got myself, the lighter the bike would feel, and the lighter the bike would feel, the less energy I'd use on the bike. I didn't understand that. I just thought I was going to get big and bulky. I also didn't understand that there was different types of training for getting muscles bigger and getting muscles stronger. I just thought heavy weights meant your muscles were going to blow up and I'd look like the Incredible Hulk. So what I do differently again is I'd probably go and find a coach that could actually tell me exactly what I needed to do, because then I would be able to ask them questions and be confident in what I was doing. And that's really the thing. I know I've said that a few times, is I just really wasn't confident in the training and the stuff I was doing. I was always like second guessing what I was doing, looking for something different. And then you get different types of information and stuff that conflicts against each other, rather than just having one source of information that I trusted that was actually able to get me results. So in saying that, if you'd like a copy of the strength and fitness benchmark test that we use with our riders to see what their level of strength is, what their level of cardio and conditioning is at, and where they need to improve, I'll put a free copy of that in the description for you. Number 8, suspension and motor work mean nothing without fitness. So we always prioritize the bike over everything, okay? When it came to like riding skills, when it came to riding fitness, the bike was like the main thing we focused on. My 250F that I had, we had the motor sent over to Pro Circuit to work their magic on it. So I'm in Australia. So to get that sent over to America is a decent bit of dollars and a decent bit of time and effort to make that happen. And then also had some Showa suspension that we got sent over from America as well. Had a Pro Circuit linkage. Like, the bike had a fair bit of work done to it, right? But I still wasn't able to put in a full race at race speed. Getting those things done didn't improve my race results. It was cool. I enjoyed getting those things. Like, the bike felt better, but it didn't actually improve my race results. And the reason it didn't is because my strength and fitness was the problem. I couldn't ride a full race at race speed. That was the thing that needed to work, not the bike. So if I was to go back in time, instead of blowing all of this money and cash and putting it into the bike, I would have taken part of that and put it into actually getting my body ready. Because think about this, we spent all of that time, effort, and money on sending the motor to Pro Circuit, but then here I am, like, you know, scrounging around on internet forums looking at what random people have to say about fitness, when I could have just paid someone to be able to tell me exactly what I needed to do to get me race fit, rather than me trying to do things the hard way and not putting any time, effort, or I was putting time and effort in, but not putting any money into it. I was just wasting time doing stuff that wasn't working, trial and error. I would have been better off not sending the motor to Pro Circuit, keeping the standard motor, putting that same amount of dollars into paying a good coach to tell me exactly what I need to do. And then once I knew what I needed to do, I've got those skills for the rest of my life. Like, as long as I continue to ride and race, I can keep using that training afterwards. I don't have to keep paying for it if I don't want to. So it's paying for the education so that I could actually do the right stuff. Number 9, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So out of all of the time that I spent out on the bike, fitness was the problem, okay? Not the bike or the skill. And this kind of ties into the previous one. It's like all of that bike time we spent every week, okay? All of the riding coaches and boot camps and stuff that we went and put time, effort, and money into. That's all well and good, and that's great. But the thing that actually held me back was the fitness. So the money would have been better off invested in my strength and fitness and getting that up, because that was my weakest link. And so I didn't understand that as a rider, I was only as strong as my weakest link. So I had a fast bike, okay, brand new bikes every couple of years, and then had all of that work done to it that I just spoke about. but still couldn't put in a full race. So the thing I needed to work on was the strength and fitness. That was holding back the skills that I had and holding back the wonderful bike that I had. The rider needed the help. And for other riders, sometimes it's different. Sometimes they've got really good strength and fitness, but their technique's shit. And so you need to go and get a riding coach and put time into that. There's no point in trying to dial in your training and up your training to 6 sessions a week if you can't even ride the bike properly. That's the thing that you need to work on. So everyone has a weakest link, but I didn't understand that. It's just like it was always put, the bike was always prioritized, then it was skills, and then it was probably fitness under that. That's how I'd say the hierarchy. That hierarchy needs to change based on what is your weakest link. And that's what I would have done differently. Number 10, you can't target a weak part of the body on the bike with a specific exercise. So I used to go to the gym and I used to do leg extensions. Okay, so leg extension machine, lifting my legs up and down to try and work the tops of my quads because they would get really sore when I was racing. And same with the cycling. Did a lot of cycling, the spin classes, to try and build endurance into my legs. The reason that didn't work is because you can't target weak areas. You can't go, oh, I get arm pumps, so I'm going to do forearm exercises. Oh, I get a sore lower back, so I'm going to do lower back exercises. The reason it doesn't work like that is because your whole body works together as a unit. Everything from head to toe, every muscle works together as a system. So when you've got, say, sore legs, for example, often it might not be your legs. It might be your hamstrings that are not doing the work. It might be your glutes that are not doing the work. It could even be that your nutrition's not dialed in. It could be that your body's got no fuel and no energy, and it doesn't matter what training you do, it's not going to matter. Everything's going to be sore. Your legs are going to be cooked because you're not fueling yourself properly. Your body's got nothing there to be able to burn. So it's not as easy as just targeting that specific area with more exercises, which is what I try to do. What I do differently now is, again, I'd probably go to a coach and find out how I get my whole body working. Dial in the food, dial in the training side and get my whole body working well from head to toe. But the thing is, I didn't have the skills at the time to be able to do that. I've got the skills now because I've been coaching and I've been doing, thousands of hours of training. We've worked with so many riders. But when I was riding, I didn't have those skills. I was just on the internet having a look at what people had to say. And again, trial and error and trying different stuff. And just going, oh, all right, if I work on my legs, that should get them a little bit better. But it's just not how the body works on the bike. 11, supplements are a waste of time. So again, I used to have like Dark Dog, glucose tablets, energy and protein bars. And the reason that this stuff didn't work is because it's not what my body needed. I wasn't training properly, part of the problem, okay? I was doing so much endurance stuff and so much cardio stuff and so much bodyweight stuff that I forgot that I'm wrestling around a 110 kilo bike. I didn't put any attention or focus into strength building. That was the first problem. The other problem was I wasn't even fueling myself properly with proper food. It was kind of like I was looking for this like magical supplement or magical thing that I could take that was going to help to be able to give me all this energy and not make me dehydrated and get rid of arm pump and make my legs stronger to be able to get through the race. And it just doesn't exist. Like you have to put in the work with your training and your nutrition, but put in the work with the right stuff. I was good at putting in the work. I was good at putting the effort in. Okay, I've been training since I was about 10 years old. I've been doing some form of exercise or training to be able to, at the time, was to be able to help with my riding and racing. That's a lot of hours of training. But at the start, it wasn't even helping on the bike. Okay, it might have helped this much, but it should have been helping this much. It wasn't getting me to a stage where I could ride a full race at race speed. So again, if I was to go back differently, I just focus on I say basics, but they're not basic for a lot of people. It's really the fundamentals, the base of everything that you're going to do, which is having great strength and conditioning, having your nutrition dialed in, knowing how to time your foods. And once you've got those sorted, then you can experiment with supplements. But I was always looking for like this magic pill of like, oh, if I had this or had that, then maybe this will be the thing that'll fix all my problems. And it just doesn't work like that. Number 12, there's 2 types of cardio, not one. So I used to think that if I could ride or if I could do like some sort of exercise for a longer period of time than what I was racing, that would help me. So when I was doing these spin classes for 45 minutes and when I was swimming for an hour at a time, I was like, cool, well, my motocross race is like 15 minutes plus a lap. So maybe, about 20 minutes all up. If I can go and swim for an hour, like a 15-minute motocross race is going to be easy. If I can go and do a cycle for an hour or 45 minutes, then a 15, 20-minute motocross race is going to be easy. It didn't work like that, though. The reason that it didn't work like that is because the thing that I missed is that the bike's 110 kilos, right? I was too busy trying to do all of this endurance stuff, trying to swim, cycle, run, whatever I was doing at the time, forgetting that the bike's 110 kilos and I'm not doing any training to move 110 kilos at all. Not even remotely close, not even half of that weight, not even a quarter of that weight. I'm just moving my body weight. But the thing is, when I was racing, I'm not moving my body weight, am I? Okay, I'm moving my body weight and the bike plus all of the power and G-force that I have to deal with as well. So that's why it didn't work. So if I was to do things differently, I'd put an emphasis on getting stronger. Okay, I would do half the amount of cardio and conditioning that I did and fill that time with doing strength work and getting myself stronger and work those both together. But I just had all my eggs in one basket with doing a lot of endurance cardio. In saying that, if you'd like a free copy of some motocross cardio workouts that you can use, I'll put a link in the description for you. 13, arm pump devices will come and go. So over the years, I've seen a lot, right? I did 14 years of racing motocross. I've been coaching riders and racers for the last 10 years. I've been training, I'm 31 now, and I've been training since about the age of 10, right? I've seen a lot of stuff come and go over those years. And specifically in the moto industry, motocross and enduro, there's different companies that pop up and go straight back down because they're short-lived. It's like weight loss, right? People see the Ab King Pro and go, oh yeah, if I get the Ab King Pro, then I'll have abs and look like those guys on TV. These are the types of companies that tend to come up, okay? Both with arm pump, both with supplements. And they come as quickly as they go, right? They pop up, they're really popular, and then they disappear. So I never actually used many of these or any of these, but the reason that they don't work is because they don't address the underlying issue. The underlying issue, 99% of the work that needs to be done is dialing in your nutrition and timing your food properly for your racing and making sure you're doing the right strength and conditioning training for your racing. That's going to get you 99% of the way there. The 1% is the supplements. But the thing is, when people see these supplements, they think that's the 99%, and they think the nutrition and the training is the 1%. But that's not how it works. So it didn't work for a lot of riders then. It still doesn't work for a lot of riders now. The thing that I would do differently then is probably not pay as much attention to that stuff, because I was younger. I didn't get involved with many of those things, but you'd see them pop up and you'd be like, oh, maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to buy handlebars for my rowing machine. Well, no, you don't, right? But that was the rabbit holes that I was going down. Is like I was thinking, oh, maybe the handlebars for my rowing machine is why I'm not race fit. When that was like maybe the 1% area that I could have worked on, rather than the 99% area, which was getting everything else nailed. So what I'd do differently is I'd go and work on those things, getting those basics nailed, getting my 99% good, and then worry about the 1% if I needed it. Number 14, what you think determines how you perform. It was a race that I did at Coastal, which is a deep sand track that we have here in Western Australia. And it was my last state round that I did as a junior racer. And I finished up 3rd overall for the day, which was one of my best races that I've had since the 65 days, so for a very long time. And I remember that day I had an RM125, and the week before, I think it was a few weeks before, someone had crashed on the downside of a jump. So I came around the jump, the flaggy was not paying attention, who knows what they were doing. I've jumped off this jump and then found out that someone was on the other side and landed on the bike with my bike. So anyway, raced that day, but then when I went and raced the bike the next time, the bars didn't feel right. Felt like the bars had been bent or something had happened with the bike, wasn't quite fixed, and it just felt awkward. You know when you get on the bike and the bars don't feel right, or they're bent, they're in a different position, it doesn't feel right? That's how I felt. However, I had one of my best racing days that day. One of my absolute best racing days, not even feeling 100% comfortable on the bike. And so the reason that I felt so comfortable on the bike is I was just confident for some reason. Like I'd been training hard, I'd been consistent with my training, I'd been doing the right stuff, I'd been getting into the gym. Even though I wasn't doing the right stuff, I'd been consistent with it, I'd been getting in it, I'd been making it happen. And I just felt confident. So even though the bike didn't feel perfect, I was still able to ride really well because I was confident in my ability, confident that I'd done the preparation. And so likewise, there's other times where the bike's been perfect and I just haven't been confident in myself. Maybe I haven't been as consistent with training. Maybe I haven't got out and practiced on the type of tracks that I need to practice at to get ready for the races that I'm getting ready for. Confidence is a big thing, but the way that you build confidence is by doing things that allow you to look at yourself and go, yeah, I can do that. So if you've done a lot of training and fitness and you've actually been consistent, you're going to be a lot more confident than if you've missed a whole heap of sessions, okay? Or you've had a few weeks off and then you get back into it and then you have a break. Same with your riding. If you know you put a lot of work into your riding and working on ruts or working on going over jumps or working on sand, you're going to be more confident going into those conditions because you know that you've put the work in. So if I was to go back, I would have tried to replicate that feeling of confidence that I had at Coastal that day. And I would have done that by trying to get myself in more uncomfortable positions and get better in the areas of riding that I wasn't so good at. And the last one, number 15, put cash into fixing my weaknesses, not what's cool. So as I've said before, all of the money that we had, or not all the money we had, a large percentage of the money that went into racing went into the bike and traveling and getting to the races and going to different tracks, okay? Like sometimes we would go down to Kalgoorlie, which is a good 6-hour drive from Perth, and we'd stay the night and go and practice there at the track because they'd have a state round coming up and they'd want to try and get some more experience or track time. But the problem was, we, out of the budget that got spent on racing over a year, a very minimal amount got spent on the nutrition and the fitness side. And that was the thing that needed to work. I would have been far better served not going to Kalgoorlie and missing one of those weekends, taking the money that got put into that, putting it into strength, conditioning and nutrition, or working with a coach, learning what to do. Because then I could have used those skills and improved my strength, fitness, nutrition and performance for all of the riding that I did from then on in, because I'd know how to fuel myself. I'd know how to train. Once you've got that knowledge, I could have kept using it and using it and using it. And then once we'd done that, then I could have gone back to spending more time at the tracks or going working with riding coaches, because I could actually implement that, and that stuff would have been my weakest link. But as I said, like a lot of the budget got put into the bike, getting new bikes, getting new gear, getting the Motor Centre Pro Circuit, getting the suspension done, when the weakest thing was me. At those points in time, the money should have been invested in me and getting me up to scratch because the bike was ready to go.